Have you ever finished watching a season of anime and just thought, man, my boy just got punked? Well, that's exactly what I thought when I saw my boy Itadori Yuji getting punked by Sukuna and Mahito, and then Kanjaku stole his kill at the end after he gained mental trauma and decided that he was now just a mindless cog in the machine. Bro gave in to the 9 to 5 for real. And let's be honest, is anyone really happy about this? No. So I'm going to do what I do best, which is talk into your ears and brains about a world where things are much more entertaining and we get a good power fantasy out of it. That being today's what if story, being what if Asta took Yuji's job. You may have seen another similar video like this on my channel before, which is what if Mash stole Deku's job, which is also a pretty funny and entertaining video, and also kind of a one-shot type episode thing. So if you like this, go check that out. But enough talk, let's get right into the story. Alright, let's get things started. How exactly am I putting Asta, the short king of Black Clover, into the absolute nightmare fuel that is Jujutsu Kaisen? Well, let's start off from the beginning. Similar to my video that I did on if Mash took Deku's job, Asta will be taking Itadori's job in a much similar way. When the king of backshots himself, Kenjaku with the Kenjutsu, is getting clapped by Itadori's dad, instead of Itadori being the creature that comes out. Wow, this is getting horrific really fast. Anyway, Asta is born instead of Itadori. Now, how exactly is this any different, with Asta having pretty similar abilities to Itadori, with him, number one, having a super strong body, and being different from other people? Well, this really wouldn't make for a good video if I just was swapping the head of whoever was the Jujutsu Kaisen protagonist, so I'll be adding one of Asta's unique traits, one of his most unique traits, in fact, that makes him such a fun protagonist to watch, which is giving him a cursed technique. Unlike Itadori, who up until this point in the manga has shown no signs of having a cursed technique, Asta instead will have been born with a cursed technique that Kenjaku could not have stolen, which people have been theorizing about is the reason Itadori doesn't have one to begin with. That is because Asta would be born with the special grade technique of Negate. Why is it just not called anti-cursed energy? Because that would just be reverse cursed technique, or reverse cursed energy. And Asta's ability is a little different, with Asta being able to completely neutralize all forms of energy, similar to how his anti-magic works in Black Clover. Of course, for now, Asta won't know this. Instead, Asta will have grown up, again, just like Yuji with his grandfather, being an only child, and being relatively stronger than other people, with this version of Asta still having that physical supremacy that he would have had in the original Black Clover, just now in Jujutsu Kaisen. Assuming that Asta is still friends with the people in the paranormal fan group, I don't think that Asta would be taken over by Sukuna. That is because when Asta would go in to save his friends, with Fushiguro watching him as he consumes Sukuna's finger, something would happen as Sukuna's soul would be extinguished the moment it enters Asta's body. Yeah, instead of Sukuna taking over Asta and turning him into a vessel, Asta's unique cursed technique, being Negate, would completely dissolve Sukuna's cursed energy inside of him, killing it instantly. So instead of Asta having to die to delete the fingers, his cursed technique is actually eradicating it. Similar to how the inverted spear of heaven works, Asta's cursed technique is able to negate any type of cursed object, including overpowered abilities like domain expansion, veils, and limitless. So Sukuna wouldn't appear, and Asta wouldn't die. Fushiguro would be very confused. But regardless, after Asta has taken care of his friends and taken out that cursed spirit with Fushiguro's help, is when Gojo Satoru would arrive. When Fushiguro is holding his hand pose ready to summon Divine General Mahoraga, Gojo would, needless to say, be curious, standing on the railing behind him on the school roof and asking, "Yo, what's up?" Fushiguro would drop his guard now knowing that Gojo was there, who could pretty much take out anyone. Gojo would look over at Asta, who would be a fair bit shorter than Itadori would have been, so essentially looking down at him, asking, "Who's this dwarf?" Asta would get all pissed off saying, "Who are you calling a dwarf? But more importantly, how the hell do you know what I look like when you're wearing that rip-off Kakashi cosplay?" Gojo would laugh as he seemingly teleports forward, now looking at Asta more closely, his finger on his chin as he feels a chill running down his skin. His Limitless, which he had activated, not sensing Asta. Gojo would take a step back, telling Fushiguro this is really interesting. As before Asta can ask what's interesting, Gojo would hold out two of his fingers using that same technique that he used on Yuji to make Asta fall asleep as he picks the boy up and decides to take him back with him to Jujutsu Tech. Asta, much like Itadori, would still have had those cursed words from his grandfather's dying breath, saying, "Asta, you're a good, strong little boy. You should help other people." So, needless to say, Asta would be not very resistant against the idea that Gojo proposes to him, which is that Asta will consume Sukuna's fingers, eradicating his cursed energy from the world and killing Sukuna, while also serving as a Jujutsu sorcerer. Once Asta is officially enrolled at Jujutsu Tech, Gojo would finally explain his ability to him while he's walking him to meet the principal, explaining to Asta that the reason that Sukuna didn't manifest and that he didn't die must be because he has a similar ability to a cursed tool that he's seen before. Gojo's typical smile turning into a frown as he remembers exactly who had used that tool on him. Gojo would tell Asta that he has nothing to worry about, telling him just to meet the principal and get classes started. This is where the first instance of Asta's curse technique would show off, because unlike the original puppet attack, when the principal throws a puppet at Yuji and has him fight it for a while to prove what his goal of being a sorcerer is, Asta would go through the same sort of situation, but his curse technique would activate, causing a black energy to cover his hands as it would completely kill the cursed energy inside the cursed doll, completely nullifying the cursed energy within the doll and cutting its connection to the principal. This being a very quick interaction, unlike what we saw in the show. Asta would have been placed next to Megami, where his room was at, and the higher-ups would still be deciding what to do with this special talent, with his unique and powerful special-grade technique, reminding the higher-ups of Jujutsu High of another student who once attended there, that being Geto, the one born outside the Jujutsu High families with a special ability of controlling cursed spirits. This being another mysterious power of being negating all cursed energy. Once classes begin, I feel like Asta and Fushiguro would have a very similar dynamic to how Asta and Yuno interact in Black Clover, minus the brother relationship, with Megami being the cool and collected type, and Asta being the opposite. I think Nobara would get along with the two of them similar to how Itadori and Nobara got along in canon, except I think Asta would be a little more brain dead in that his personality is a bit more straightforward than Yuji's. Yuji actually having some intelligence and an idea of humor, while Asta is essentially a country bumpkin. But who knows, maybe this could be different since he'd be raised in the modern era and have gone through regular schooling instead of growing up in the Forsaken realm of the Clover Kingdom. So you can't really say if that would stay the same or not. But I'm getting off track. Back to the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, once Nobara joined the crew, they'd have Asta and Nobara take down that one cursed spirit with the kid and the little hostage situation, with Nobara taking it out using her awesome curse technique, being Straw Doll and Hairpin. Easily one of the coolest techniques to watch in the show. That is aside from Boogie Woogie and Gojo's red and blue and purple, and his eyes, and pretty much just Gojo in general having god tier animation. But regardless, after this situation would have ended, the three would have officially accepted each other as fellow students, and the story would begin, with the first incident happening of them being sent to fight against a special grade cursed womb, which was originally just supposed to be a first grade. Now, honestly, once we get to this point, this is where, without Sukuna, Asta realistically would die. Now, hold on, I know, but seriously, like the power gap between the three students versus that one cursed womb was insane. Fushiguro, Nobara, and Itadori had no chance in the original timeline, and essentially gave up on Yuji even surviving, which is why they left him there. So without Sukuna coming in and intervening, and Yuji letting him take control to fight them, well, Asta can't exactly do that. So instead, I'll be using the power of writing to make this make more sense. So Because Asta is able to damage and affect all cursed energy, even typically unbreakable things like the insides of domains, Asta would actually have no problem with retrieving Nobara, or even just shattering the entire domain that the cursed womb had made originally. Now, I still think that the cursed womb would have absorbed Sukuna's finger, which is how it got so strong to begin with, but even without Sukuna, I still believe Asta has the best chance of even surviving long enough or escaping from this thing, because again of his unique curse technique, which is able to destroy cursed energy. So, Asta would have to coat his arms with this energy, since he can't use cursed tools, because if he were to use a cursed tool with his negate ability, it would destroy the cursed tool, which would probably piss Maki enough off to beat him into the ground. But let's assume Gojo isn't planning on this, so he doesn't give Asta a cursed tool at all, with him already having been able to show he can use his technique. Asta would take less damage from the blasts of cursed energy because his body would be negating it as it's hitting him, but it still wouldn't be able to delete the kinetic force of the cursed energy. So I could see Asta's fingers getting shredded, his hands getting destroyed, but honestly, I don't know if Asta would get killed because of his unique resistance to cursed energy. So maybe he just holds it off long enough and somehow escapes, and then Gojo comes in later and kills it, or kills more casualties and thus gives trauma to the group of 3 who are unable to stop it. Either way, I don't see it killing Asta at this point, but also Asta has no real means of attack yet, so I think the bare minimum is him surviving and having to be healed with reverse curse technique. Either that happens or they all die and the story ends there, which would be really boring, so we're not going to do that. Assuming that they survive and everything's taken care of, Gojo would be pissed off that the elders had sent his students after this cursed spirit when they knew how powerful it was and could potentially wipe them out. After this arc is where typically he would have his undercover alive mission, where Yuji is still alive and is trained by Gojo to master more of his cursed energy so he doesn't get murked next time. In this version of events, Asta is confirmed alive, so I don't think Gojo would be able to pull that off. Instead, they'd be probably targeting Asta because of his threat to Jutsu society, with his ability to kill off pretty much all cursed energy, meaning that Tengen's barriers would be meaningless before him. So if Asta were to ever go to the dark side or be convinced to switch over, he could walk right through them and shatter every single barrier right until they got to Tengen. So in this case, the fear that the higher-ups have of Asta actually feels a bit more justified considering their history with other sorcerers born outside of the sorcerer system. Ghetto. Anyway, regardless, Gojo doesn't have the time or resources to find a way to hide Asta and train him to better use his technique yet, so instead Asta would continue to stay alongside Nobara and Megumi, with him meeting their upperclassmen of Panda, Maki, and Inumaki. With all 6 of them now trained together, Panda would ask the 3 about their roles, with Asta being a power type, Megumi and Nobara having a little more utility than he does, and at this point they'd trade off into pairs. Asta would be paired off with Inumaki, Maki would be training Megumi, and Panda would be training with Nobara. While Inumaki is training with Asta and sparring, he would lower his mask using the command STOP as Asta is about to push forward into a barrage of strikes. When he does this though, Asta would move through the blast of cursed energy like it didn't even bother him, not even having an effect on his movement or speed at all. Inumaki would get gut punched as he gets sent flying, with Asta confused asking what that was. Maki and Panda would be shocked seeing Inumaki's cursed speech have zero effect on Asta, asking about what his cursed technique is. It would be at this point that Megumi would take his liberty of exposition bot to explain to the upperclassmen that Itadori Asta had the ability to delete cursed energy with an ability that Gojo Sensei called Negate. Asta completely nullifies all abilities of cursed techniques, reverse cursed techniques, cursed energy. Even a blade cursed tool would act merely as someone using a kitchen knife against him. Regardless, this would be pretty impressive, and they decide they need to keep this under wraps. It's after the training session ends that Mai and Toji would show up, with Asta, Megumi, and Nobara getting something from the vending machines. Maki and Nobara walking in later. We see Toji and Mai speaking with Megumi and Asta. Toji would ask his same question that he would have in the original, asking Megumi, "What kind of girl turns you on, Megumi?" And then Megumi reply with his little beta voice, "I just like a good personality." Todo would lunge forward trying to get Megumi in that punch, saying he's such a boring man, when Asta would move in front of the way, catching his fist with his one hand, and screaming from the bottom of his soul that he loves Sister Lily. Todo would look at him confused, and Asta would sit there for a second, confused, saying if he has a thing for nuns or something. Asta would scratch his head of his other hand, not really understanding what his answer meant, but anyway, it's too late for that. Let's just fight, okay? So Todo starts punching Asta in the head. The two go flying around to some buildings as they get into a physical clash, with Todo and Asta having the time of their goddamn lives, okay? Mai would just be looking at Megumi, just watching the two idiots punching each other through buildings. And unlike the original, Megumi would not try to summon Mahoraga the Opstapa on Todo, because for one, in retrospect, that's pretty crazy. But second, because Asta and Todo would be going at it at about the same pace. They'd be keeping up with each other, my guy. Asta's a short king, but he's got some muscles. He's got some glutes. What can I say? So Asta and Todo finish off their bout, with Todo saying that he's impressed, and that even if Asta has some weird nun fetish, he can still call him a competent brother. Anyway, let's move forward to the Goodwill event. This time, I don't think that Kyoto would order for Asta's assassination, because although they tried wiping him out with the special grade curse, like they did in the original, honestly, like, they don't really need to kill him at this point. Unlike where the threat of Sukuna was, where Sukuna was as strong as Gojo, or perceived that way, Asta is more like a young sprout. Like, he has an overpowered ability, but he doesn't know how to use it really well yet, so they're not particularly scared of him. They just have flashbacks when they see him of Geto, who was a very similar case and then ended up being a major thorn in their sides. I think the Goodwill event would be pretty interesting because unlike the original, they don't even know about the cursed spirits and what's going on, since the original fight with Gojo and with Jogo doesn't happen. So instead of us even meeting Jogo yet, I think we just immediately start off with Hanami, and this would be where the cursed nature spirits are introduced. Hanami versus Asta and Toji would be really interesting, since Todo's Boogie Woogie would actually not work on Asta. His negate would delete the technique when it's applied to him, so Asta and Toji actually don't make that good of a team, since unlike Yuji and Toji, who can switch with Todo's technique, Asta is kind of disabling that. But even so, as soon as he touches Hanami's root attacks, he could use his own cursed technique, deleting them instantaneously and killing the control of cursed energy within the roots. So Hanami would be very wary of him. Since Asta can effectively remove and delete cursed energy with negate, he is incredibly effective against cursed spirits if he can manage to lay a finger on him. Which is why even though he was getting abused by the kinetic force from that first special grid cursed womb, he still survived. So Hanami has to learn how to fight against someone who they can't use their actual full power against. While Hanami is busy focusing on Asta, who would be getting out of the way and using physical attacks to destroy the cursed energy, Toji would be using his switch-up ability to land hits on Hanami, throwing stones and switching with them, and using this projectile ability to get in close and deal damage. It's at this point as well that Asta would manage to get in close from having caught Hanami off guard, landing a perfect punch and actually achieving a true black flash. That being a black lightning would come off Asta's hand as negate would rip through the cursed energy, shattering and breaking through Hanami's arm and shoulder and deleting one of Hanami's arms. Unlike a real black flash, which would allow you to see the real essence of cursed energy, since Asta's cursed energy is being used to feed his technique 100% of the time, instead he has this void of black energy, which is just his technique. So instead he would see a ripple of his own soul, better understanding negate and how it actually works as a technique. Hanami would get pushed backwards, just in time for Todo to sense the cursed energy coming and pull Asta out of the way, to assure that Asta does not destroy the hollow purple coming at them, with Gojo killing Hanami. Yes, that's right, Hanami would die at the Goodwill event, while also revealing the fact that there is a secret organization or a group of cursed spirits who for some reason can speak, attacking Jujutsu High, with some other goal of this group coming into the forefront sooner or later. But yeah, that's where we're going to cut off for today. If you guys want more of this, maybe we can do a volume 2 like we did with MASH. I don't know, comment down below something funny, lobotomy Kaisen style. Keep it real, I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.